Hello and welcome to Florence Road. We're a WordPress-loving digital agency based down here in Australia, and we'd like to teach you a little bit about WordPress. You're probably watching this because maybe you've heard a little bit about WordPress and you wanted to find out some more. Well, one of the most common questions we get is not necessarily whether WordPress is right for you, but maybe which version. So let's take a look into the differences between the .com version of WordPress and the .org. And hopefully, by the end of this short video, we'll have helped you make a decision as to which one is going to be right for you. So let's compare the two. WordPress.com is a hosted version of WordPress that makes it really easy for anyone to publish online. Some of the benefits include its simplicity. It's just so simple and easy to sign up, start logging in and posting content. All of the technical maintenance is taken care of, setup, upgrades, spam, backups, etc. And your blog is on hundreds of servers, so it always remains available even under high traffic. And lastly, your content is always backed up, so there's very little chance of you ever losing your site. One of the downsides is that WordPress.com provides approximately 200 themes, but they can be quite basic themes, and you can't upload your custom theme, which is really limiting compared to the .org version. You also can't modify the PHP code, which might sound like Chinese to some of you, but eventually as your site grows you might want to make adjustments to the WordPress files. Lastly, and probably most importantly, is the plugins. Plugins are like applications for your smartphone, so they provide, rich content for you to do some funky things with your phone. In the same regard, that's what plugins do for your WordPress site. You can do things like publish galleries, or you can auto post to social media sites, and we're going to give you a couple of examples shortly. On the flip side, WordPress.org is software that essentially you install on your own hosted server, and instead of logging into someone else's version, you're kind of creating your own version, which obviously allows great flexibility with the ability to upload your own themes, your own plugins, and of course the ability to change code so that your site can do pretty much whatever you want it to do. Now, having your own version of WordPress comes with responsibility, and we wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone host it, but instead we'd recommend a good, reliable and secure host, and we'll go into more detail about that shortly. It obviously also, you need to understand how to install the software, which can be tricky. Of course, you can get someone else to do it for you as well, but you'll still need to maintain WordPress, which means upgrading when the new versions come out and also updating the plugins and the other software. So from our perspective, the WordPress.com site it's great for a simple and basic blog. It doesn't have a lot of flexibility, which means if you want a professional website, you really need to get your hands dirty with WordPress.org. So we talked a little bit about the difference between the two, and some of the things that we focused on with WordPress.org was the themes, plugins, and the hosting. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail to help you understand the difference between the two, .com and .org. So essentially, let's have a look at what themes are. So, essentially we explain to people that themes are kind of like a kid home, or maybe they're the clothes for the people. They give you a particular look and feel and a characteristic. They essentially provide the basic layout, the style and the structure of your website. So if you're wanting a professional website, then the basic themes that come with the .com aren't going to suffice. You're going to need something with some real grunt. So remembering that with WordPress.com you are limited with the number of themes, you really should be looking at WordPress.org. And one of the companies that we work with is called Woo Themes, and they have some fantastic themes that we customize for our clients. And to give you an idea, WordPress.com at the time of recording this video, they only had 5 of their very basic themes available to WordPress.com users, whereas they've got over 100 themes, and our favorite theme, White Light, isn't available to WordPress.com users. The difference between the basic theme and a paid premium theme is, it's flexibility. Can you change things around to suit your style or brand? There's features, so feature sliders, custom menus, galleries, custom sidebars. They're all the things that we look for in a premium theme. And of course, lastly, responsive design, meaning can the design resize for smaller and larger screens? And I'd hope with WordPress.com that at least the responsive design has been covered, and some will have responsive sliders and things like that. To give you an idea, the cost of a premium theme is anywhere between $20 and $100. Our favorite theme, Whitelight, is $70. So just installing that theme into your site might be enough to get you up and running, but again, if you want a professional look, then you need to call in the experts, which is to get a WordPress developer, someone like Florence Rowe, for instance, who understands that theme inside out and can customize it for your particular site. So what about plugins? So we already mentioned that plugins basically allow your site to do pretty much anything that you want, and we explained to you that it's kind of like a smartphone app where you add the apps to your phone and they enable some rich content, and that's pretty much exactly the same as what plugins do for WordPress. So I guess the easiest way to explain it is probably show you 3 of our favorite plugins. The first one is to improve your SEO performance, and our favorite plugin is SEO by Yoast.com, which we install in nearly every single one of our sites. It allows you to improve your search engine performance rankings, which we all know how important that is to be found on Google, and it does that by recommending you add particular keywords, change your titles, image, alt tags, etc. So you're kind of learning about SEO as you're implementing these strategies, and we actually never thought SEO was going to be that interesting until we started using SEO by Yoast. Another one is great for musos, and we've been using this particular plugin for over 3 years now, which is called GigsPress. And as a musician myself, I used to enter gigs into MySpace, into Facebook, and all over the place. And of course, when the show finishes, you have to log on. You've got to delete the show. Every time you put in a new venue, you've got to put in their phone number, their address, etc., etc. Now, the great thing about GigsPress is that it remembers everything. So if I put in a gig at a particular venue, it goes into the database, and if I select that again, it puts in all the details that I put in last time. So things like address, phone number, website. So it just saves you heaps of time. The other great thing is that, it comes out in a really beautiful little table, and it has links to the venue, and you can put in ticket prices and purchase tickets, etc. And of course, when the show finishes, it drops off your current show listings and it moves into your archive automatically, because WordPress knows what date it is. And I guess GigsPress is kind of like, without having GigsPress, it's kind of like a guitarist maybe not having strings. So the last one, and we could spend pretty much all day talking to you about plugins and why we think WordPress.org is more appropriate for the more powerful sites, and this is probably a great example, and this is WooCommerce, and why Jerry Harvey from Harvey Norman just doesn't install this plugin and start selling decent product is completely beyond me. You could have a store up and running in a day. It is a full-on e-commerce superstore which comes straight out of the box, and it's actually free from the people at Woo Themes. And of course, we customize these particular plugins for our clients, as well as show them how to use it. And it's just a fantastic example of how you can have an e-commerce store in no time at all, and why we think WordPress.org is potentially the be-all to end-all. And lastly, one of the things that we mentioned to you was about hosting and, having to install your own software and update it, and for some that probably seemed like it was going to be a real challenge. So when you think about hosting, you really need to think about what's coming through now is what's called managed hosting providers. So they'll look after the WordPress updates, which come out sometimes quarterly, half yearly, and they're also the plugin updates, which are really regular. It's just like updating the apps on your phone. You've got to do the same thing for your website, and if you don't do it, you become vulnerable to hackers and, of course, the site breaking. Many of the cheap and cheerful web hosts, they won't provide any of these services, and they'll charge you maybe about $50 a year or something, but we've had some terrible experiences with cheap hosts in the past, having lost 6 or 7 sites. At one time, I think we lost 4 or 5 in a week with a cheap host, which is when we decided to move everything over to WP Engine. And Florence Road is now an enterprise partner of WP Engine, which means we can provide additional cost savings to you. Their service is normally $360 a year, and you can have a WordPress.org site set up within our community for $120 a year, which is fantastic value considering all the updates are taken care of. It's backed up daily to a data center in Texas, Amazon data centers in Texas, as well as to Singapore, and it comes with full security as well. So we've gone through everything, and hopefully we've convinced you that if you're looking at something other than just a basic blog, WordPress.org is going to be the way to go. And we've addressed a number of the concerns around hosting, and hopefully we've made that really clear that we think WordPress.org is definitely the way to go. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and you know, if there's anything that you need in terms of WordPress services or any other digital services, then please drop us a line, florenceroad.com, and also view some more of our tutorials online. Thanks a lot, guys.